to reset it?
Yeah.
Let's catch it for whatever number. So, yeah, ready? Let's go. Good evening. My name is Miles Covington. I'm here to talk to you about the criminal justice system. Has anybody seen the common TV show in America called Cops?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's a show, they have a camera crew and they follow along with law enforcement while they're being dispatched out to reported incidents of crime in their respective local areas. So it's pretty hilarious. They catch ridiculous criminals and it does get serious to where they are following after suspects, murder suspects, mind you. So it's entertaining to say the least, and this is what America likes to see. We like to see the good guys, the cops, catch the bad guys, the suspects, and arrest them, right? What happens after the suspect gets arrested? All right, he does, you're right. He goes to jail. So there's a lot of ways to get into the criminal justice system, and there's a lot of ways to get out of the criminal justice system. My mission is to tell you of the common route that we take in today's time, the common route that one takes through the criminal justice system. They are apprehended by the cops, they are circumventing the court system, and they are rehabilitated through the corrections. Those are basically the three major events that happen in the most common route going through the criminal justice system. So, apprehending by the cops, being apprehended by the cops. This is what you see on TV. This is what you see on TV. The cops arrest the suspect, they throw him in the back of a squad car, and they are riding off into the night, and the theme song comes on called Bad Boys from the Inner Circle, created in 1989. Have you heard of that song?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bad boys, bad boys.
It goes, bad boys, what you gonna do? Okay. That is entertaining to say the least, but it's not TV. We're in reality, so what happens is that the suspect, while he's in the backseat of the car, the arresting officer is contacting the local magistrate judge and filing charges against the suspect. In order to do that, he has to formally charge this suspect. So that takes a couple of days to do, but the local magistrate judge puts him in rotation to be seen. Until that time, he has to take him to a holding cell. All right? Are you familiar with a holding cell?
Just heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay. WEX definition team from the Legal Information Institute terms it as the courthouse jail. So they take a ride to the courthouse jail. Instead of the theme song coming on, they actually ride 20 or 30 minutes in a particular direction and arrive at an imposing building surrounded by a barbed wire fence. And they get in through it and go to a carport. They pull up into a carport. They get out of the car, go to this big metal frame door at the side of the building. And the officer there, the suspect is handcuffed. So the officer waves at the control tower for them to open the metal door. The door opens. Both the suspect and the officer walk through that door, and then the officer waves his hand again for the control tower to close that metal door. Once that metal door closes, the suspect is now incarcerated. And the realization hits, well, I'm incarcerated. So the incarcerated now turns into, the term for the suspect is now defendant, which goes to the second part of the process, defending yourself in court. So I've labeled this idea as being a circumventing, so that you can understand that what happens is that the majority of the people who are undergoing this process, they don't take it to trial. They don't take their case to trial. And that's purely because it's time consuming. According to Swenson, in 2009, an editor for the Bakersfield Californian says that for a defendant who is in jail, the system is designed to bring him to trial within about 3 months of his arrest. So this was in 2009. It was common to be brought to trial, and a verdict could be found 3 months into your arrest. But today, it's not possible at all. It's inconceivable with the COVID pandemic delaying millions of cases right now. So we're looking at 2 to 3 years just on that alone, just on the COVID pandemic happening alone. So it runs across a person's mind that, well, when first appearance, when they have to see that local magistrate judge, they don't necessarily want to plead guilty, but they don't necessarily want to say they're innocent because they're going to have to spend time, more time, incarcerated. Most of these people don't have lawyers. So when the judge, during that time, asks the defendant if he has a lawyer, most likely he's going to say no. And a public defender will be assigned to that defendant. The public defender is the person that offers the plea deal that most people take. And that plea is called nolo contendere. Nolo contendere. Have you heard of that plea before?
No.
Barely.
No.
Okay. Well, that is a plea. This plea means that you will take the conviction for the charges and you will not admit guilt. It's one thing to say, hey, you're guilty of something. It's another thing to say, well, look, I don't have time to plead innocent. And this is the route that's introduced to you 9 times out of 10. The plea of nolo contendere. So ultimately, the defendant will take that plea and be forwarded over to the Department of Corrections for rehabilitation. And that's our third mark during the criminal justice system, during your route through the criminal justice system. While you're a part of the Department of Corrections, what they're doing is supervising you as you are brought back to the law-abiding citizen that you should be. There are terms for your probationary time after you've been sentenced. So you could have classes done, it's a wider range of things that you could do that a judge could sentence you to in order to finish while you're in the Department of Corrections, but ultimately a time would be set. So normally, you're not going to spend less than 6 months on probation. You usually spend more than 6 months on probation. And after your 6 months, once you complete your terms, you're out of there. But it's really hard to do. It's really hard to complete probation. It's actually the most incompletable aspect of the criminal justice system, going through probation. And this is what most people do. They go through probation. So, knowing the actual outcome of an arrest, going through the court system, and going through rehabilitation should help us realize that breaking the law could really ruin any chance of real freedom in the foreseeable year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Even after taking a plea deal, the tedious task of rehabilitating oneself back into the community comes with challenges. So I'll leave you with this. I hope knowing this process will give you the ability to weigh the outcome of your decisions deeper and lead you away from the back of some squad car being filmed on the next episode of Cops. Okay. All right. Thank you. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's done. What time do you take?
What's done is done.
8-6.
Oh my God, I gotta ask you guys some questions.
Well,
He's got to turn it back on.
I'm on it. Hold this camera.
Okay.
Just hold it forward. Okay, what's some questions? I need 3 questions.
you're gonna film this too?
Yeah, I'm being filmed right now. What are some questions?
Well, how does he know what his, how long he's gonna have to serve a penalty?
How long does he have to serve?
Yeah, how does he know that?
He gets during the verdict, or not the verdict. What do you mean?
Well, how does he know that he's gotta spend 6 months or a year or whatever before he decides to take a plea?
So the plea of nolo contendere, right? Most people understand what they've done when they are arrested. It might be that the person has driven with an invalid license, or a person may have a DUI, and they understand the extent of their charges. If they don't, a lot of times what they do is request a public defender in order for them to communicate and figure out what the extent is of their consequences. But they do know their charges, and you're given a sheet of paper that lets you know your charges when you do go into those courthouse jails.
Do you get when do you get fingerprinted and stuff like that? Do they do that? In
They
the
do.
holding cell? Or-
They do. That happens in the courthouse jail. While you're waiting to see your first appearance, to see the local magistrate judge during your first appearance, you'll be back and forth in and out of this holding tank inside the courthouse jail, and they'll send you out. A police officer would open the door to take you out and then bring you to some lady or dude that will be sitting at a kiosk, and you'll put your fingerprints in. So they kind of do that for you
That's done there.
immediately. It has to be done. It's not necessarily done immediately, but they have to eventually do it. Before you actually get out of that place, you have to be fingerprinted,
Yeah.
just so they can make sure that you don't have anything else tying to your name. So that's something that they have to do.
And I know they took cops off when they had a lot of murders for like what's his name, the guy that put the knee on his neck, and all that was going on. They took cops off for a while. Is it back on TV?
As far as I can tell, I don't think cops is, well, as far as I can tell, you could probably Netflix cops.
Oh,
Or probably like search for it out on a Fire Stick or something like that.
'Cause I used to watch it, but I know they took it off.
It is
for a while.
on. It's on. It's on streaming TV.
Yeah, it's on streaming TV. It's on one of the basic channels too.
Okay.
One thing that's interesting is that the people actually in jail that are actually incarcerated. That's one of the channels that's showing while they're behind bars. It's cops.
It's cops. Really? That was very good. Very interesting.
That was good.
Yeah, very good.
Learned a lot.
Learned a lot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what can you tell me about the topic?
Topic is criminal justice system, and it's what really goes on from the time a suspect is apprehended by the cops, and what he has to go through to get his freedom back.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Great. They record it?